Use my blanket if you want.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, whose blanket is this?
Either mine or Catherine's. There are two up there. Well, that was mine. You can take it.
No, this is Kelly.
Oh, yeah. Right.
See, I have the timer in front of me.
Lucky
So I'll
you.
I'll be the keeper of the clock.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:27. Actually, I probably should wait till 5:30.
So this is what
Yeah.
you have. We've got one camera for, like I have the one camera for our speaker, and then what do we have for other people like our above and beyond people or the rest of the meeting?
Well, they're here, our above and beyond people are here, so we're going to go. We're gonna go in the front here.
I'll see the camera.
Yeah, see, there's a camera, see? Oh, okay.
Make Scott turn it. On the box. You got to move the camera, Scott, on the box.
Oh.
That's the camera right there.
Oh, right there.
Okay.
Do I need to turn it? It looks like it's more or less pointed right at the box.
It's funny, you can look at that little, that's the camera.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Robert's daughter. They're cute.
Oh, that's cute. Did
It used to
she,
make everything.
did she
Yeah.
sew them or did she stamp it? What about she?
She stamped them like a cricket.
Oh, that's cool.
It is 5:30 and I am now going to call the December 15th, 2020 school board meeting to order. And the first item is to administer the oath of office to our 3 board members, 2 of whom have been reelected and 1 new first-time board member. So I will start with our new board member, which is Adam. You could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Amy Adams,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear the true faith and allegiance
that I will bear the true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and
California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Scott Tory, repeat after me. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Scott DeTore,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and the
California
Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. And Ms. Ute Van Dam, repeat after me and raise your right hand. I state your name. I, Ute Van Dam, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. So I'm going to now take roll. Amy Adams. Scott DeTore,
Here.
Robert Perez,
Here.
Nathan Sweet,
Here.
Ute Van Dam, present. And so, Mr. Mark Van Dam, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand. Right hand on heart, repeat with me, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So item number 8, election of board president. I am now going to open nominations for the office of board president. Do I have a nomination? I nominate Robert Perez.
Second.
I have a first and I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, congratulations, Robert Perez. You are the president of the 2021 school year.
Wonderful.
You're wonderful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, now we will be electing our vice president. So I will entertain a nomination.
I nominate Ute Van Dam.
We have a nominate by board member Sweet for Ute Van Dam,
I will second that nomination.
second by Scott DeTore. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations. I will now entertain a motion for the election clerk of the board.
I'll nominate Scott.
I'll second.
We have a first for Scott, second by, I'm sorry, first by Nathan, second by Ute. All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Scott. Well, here comes the good one. Okay. I know who this one is. I'd like to call for the election of the school district representative to the Ventura County Committee on School District Organization. Do we have any nominations for this one?
Based on our tradition, I'd like to nominate Amy Evans.
Okay, we have a first for Amy,
Second.
second for Amy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, next here. Congratulations. We're now moving on to the board to designate the superintendent as the ex officio clerk and secretary to the Board of Education. Do we have a motion?
I also move.
Motion by Scott Tori, second. Second by Nathan Sweet. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. Item 11, it is recommended that the board designate the day, time, and place of its regular monthly meeting. Current meeting schedule is the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. here at the district office boardroom. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Scott Tori,
Second.
second by Nathan Sweet. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving on to item 12, reordering and approval of the agenda. Dr. Hayes?
Yes, we would like to move item 15A to follow item 13.
Do we have a motion?
I move for 15A to follow item 13.
Motion by Ute Van Dam. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott Tori. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to item 13, approval of minutes. It is recommended that the board approve the minutes of the November 10th, 2020 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Motion by Nathan Sweet. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott Tori. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving on to item 15A. Dr. Hayes.
Thank you very much. This moves us to our Above and Beyond Award, and I would like to ask Yvonne Kramer and Amanda Parkin to please stand. These are our two district nurses, and I am incredibly grateful that Moore Park Unified has the services of these two amazing women. In normal times, they are compassionate, hardworking, and very effective at what they do. But during a pandemic, they have been nothing less than heroes to our students and staff. Beginning in September, when we were preparing our schools for in-person learning, these two ladies assisted us with school preparations of PPE, creating safe spaces for symptomatic students and staff, and also helped us with staff training. In addition, they are our district health liaisons who work directly with the Ventura County Health Department to keep our schools safe for our students and staff. Since opening our schools, and especially now with the county, state, and nationwide surge in positive COVID cases, they have both been working far beyond their regular hours in their workday. In fact, I am in communication with them most every evening and certainly on the weekends. They are tasked with contact tracing and talking with staff and families who are either positive or may have been exposed, and ultimately determining whether or not students and staff should quarantine or if they are safe to return to school. Our school transmission of COVID has been extremely low, if even at all, and that is a testament to the effectiveness of the work the two of you are doing. Despite working overtime nearly every night and weekend, Yvonne and Amanda patiently answer every question, provide thorough information, assist our principals with notifying and interviewing possible cases of exposure, and are a constant source of calm, comfort, and reassurance during these challenging times. Yvonne and Amanda, on behalf of our school board, cabinet, MUSD staff and families, I want to thank you for going above and beyond for our students, families, and MUSD staff. Thank you so much, and we have a certificate for you. You could, I will give you each a certificate. We'll do it just like the distance, and then we'll have you stand in front with a photo. Normally, the board, we all get our pictures taken, but if you could just stand 6 feet apart, and we'll get a picture of the two of you.
And we'll stand behind.
Yes. So Amanda, this one is for you. And finish for you. So thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
And then we'll stand in the middle. Thanks.
Oh, in the middle. Oh, I guess you want that here.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. I'll move you.
I'm smiling.
Really, I am.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person that we are recognizing tonight is Carrie Pentis, who is the principal at Moore Park High School. She is not in attendance, but she is watching virtually. As you know, we are the only public high school that is open in Ventura County, and a large part of this is due to the work of Ms. Pentis. Creating a high school master schedule is a challenge under the best of circumstances. Creating a master schedule during a pandemic that incorporates all the high school singletons, reflects 2 cohorts of students, and maintains class sizes of about 12 to 14 students is a feat that can only be done by hand scheduling nearly 2,000 students. At one of my superintendent meetings, I was asked about scheduling because I'm getting a lot of questions from other superintendents, especially about opening our high school. And they asked, how do we do it at the high school? And I told them exactly how we did it. That we had a very dedicated and determined principal who was willing to do this for hours and hours and hours. And in fact, after about 40 hours, Ms. Pentis finished the first draft of the schedule, and we were able to open the high school fairly smoothly. She later told me that she shared with me that she spent nearly every night and again, every weekend leading up to the school opening, doing this schedule. And later, when some more people wanted to go to distance learning, she was receiving several hundred emails a day, and she made sure to answer every single one of them daily. So I want her to be honored and recognized tonight for her tremendous work ethic and dedication to our high school students and staff. She did not want this attention and asked me, please do not do this. I overruled her request because the fact that we remain the only in-person public high school in Ventura County, in large part because of the work she did, cannot be overlooked. So Carrie Pentis, on behalf of the school board and cabinet, I thank you for going above and beyond for our high school students and for doing the tremendous work you do so that Moore Park High School could reopen safely to in-person learning. So thank you, Carrie. I will personally deliver her certificate that is signed by the board.
Okay, moving on to 15B.
15B is going to be tabled for the next meeting. Mr. Broadsley is a person who has donated some time and money to our schools, and I want to recognize him. But we're going to do it in person when we're able. So we're going to table that.
Okay, great. Okay, moving back to item 14, public comment. This is the time the Board of Education reserves for comments from the public. The board will be pleased to hear from individuals on any item of interest pertinent to the Moore Park Unified School District. Persons desiring to comment must complete a yellow speaker's request form. It should be submitted to Aurelia Hernandez, who will then forward it to the board president. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the board cannot enter into a formal discussion with the public, nor can a decision be made in regard to public comments. The board may provide a reference to staff or other resource of information or request staff to report back at a subsequent meeting. If the topic is one that is on the agenda for this meeting, you will be recognized at the appropriate place on the agenda prior to board action on the item. If the topic is one that is not listed on the agenda for this meeting, the board will hear comments at this time but will not take any action. The board reserves the right to schedule at a time at a later date to hear and receive information on a highly technical topic, which will require more than a brief presentation. A person addressing the board is urged not to use more than 3 minutes of time in accordance with BB 9323 unless a time limit is waived by the majority action of the board members present. Any cards received after the public comment will be noted by the superintendent to the board to allow an opportunity for the board to consider establishing a time later in the agenda to continue with public comment. Our public comment is Marcy Pollock. Hi.
And Mr. President, we have two to read, and
Okay.
then I have several that are attached to a separate item, 17B, but so we have 3 total for public comments.
Okay, Marcy, if you'd like to come up to the podium. Great.
Right there.
Hi, I'm Nurse Marcy, and I'm the health office nurse at Flory Elementary School. And I come before you today not to complain, but to hopefully collaborate and problem solve the cutback of my work hours in the middle of a pandemic. While I'm sad for myself because I love what I do, I'm going to be okay until the after-school program comes back. But this is actually not about me right now. What I'm more concerned about is the domino effect that it will have on our community at large. What I would like to propose is that we work on a way to alternatively budget for those after-school hours for the simple reason that my workload is actually double what it was when I was working in Success, when the Success Express is running. I don't really see that changing anytime soon for obvious reasons, with or without Success Express. We really work as a team on our campus, and I'm really proud of it. I've absolutely loved working at Flory and Moorpark Unified for the last 8 going on 9 years. It's my passion and my life's work. Please understand again that this is not about me complaining about my workload. It's what I signed up for when I chose to be a health office nurse. What I am saying though is that trying to cram what's become a way more than an 8-hour day into 6 hours during the middle of a pandemic will have some effects. I spend my days serving parents, teachers, students, classified, special ed counselors, therapists, nurses, nutrition, technology, and others that will not be served in these unusual times while I'm not there a full day, even if it's only minus 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week. I truly do not want Moorpark Unified to look bad at all for cutting a health office nurse's hours during a pandemic. I actually think that the reasons for it are justified when you look at it logically. After school program not running, therefore we cut the nurse hours allocated to it. The issue though is that the work I'm doing is way more than it ever was in the after school program due to the pandemic. And the pandemic doesn't take any time off. The workload only increases. I'm wearing extra hats now that I wasn't before, such as preschool attendance and even truancy at this point. It's my belief that we would not be serving the Moorpark community if we don't try and figure this out in order to bridge the gap between mid-January and whenever the after-school program is able to run again. If not for me, for the kids and the families that we serve. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I really appreciate you and the attention to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Dr. Hayes?
Okay, so I will read these and that were received. The first one is from Antonella Ragoza, a kindergarten teacher at Flory Academy. Dear school board members, while I love being back in the classroom with my kindergarten students, this letter is not to persuade you whether to keep schools open or temporarily transition to distance learning after winter break. Instead, I'm writing to you this evening to ask for more regular and convenient COVID testing for your teachers. Knowing your COVID status is essential for contact tracing and helping to stop the spread of the virus, especially as asymptomatic cases contribute to the surge we are currently experiencing. While regular Voluntary testing of those working in person would be ideal. We should at the very least provide an efficient option like test kits or testing at our school district office for staff that have been exposed to a positive case in the workplace. Our neighbors in Pleasant Valley School District have been mailing free at-home test kits to all their employees every 2 months, whether they work in person or from home. While the testing is not compulsory, it is encouraged. I urge you to consult with their district and adopt a similar plan for your teachers who were among the very first to return to in-person learning. Additionally, Ventura County Mobile Testing Task Force, NTT, allows businesses to arrange free on-site testing for their employees. The truck can accommodate testing for 100 to 300 individuals each time they are scheduled to come out. Reservations seem to fill up quickly, but perhaps this is something our district can proactively arrange for us on a regular basis. Testing as many employees as regularly as possible is an important tool for keeping our schools and communities safe. Here is a link if you'd like to sign up. It's a sign up genius. I can provide that to the board. Please provide us with this very reasonable accommodation during a time when we are going above and beyond our usual call of duty to serve the Moore Park community. It is the respectful, responsible, and right thing to do. Thank you for your consideration. And the next one is from Rick Ponciano, who is the president of the CSEA Chapter 498, our classified employees. My name is Rick Ponciano. I am the CSEA Chapter 498 president. Thank you, school board members, for allowing me this forum to speak on behalf of classified staff. I would personally like to thank all the classified members for their devotion to MUSD. You have all worked hard behind the scenes to make opening for the students and teachers possible. You have not been given the credit you are due. Thank you for your service. You are often forgotten by leadership, but you work diligently to perform your task without complaints. Technology was able to prepare 5,000 Chromebooks on top of prepping computers, printers, and pro boards with a staff of 3. Custodial is responsible for having classrooms cleaned and ready for students and staff every day. Cleaning, disinfecting, and when notified of a positive case in a classroom, they do an extra clean and disinfect. Our office staff has stepped up to assist and cope with having less staff due to layoffs. Paraeducators are on the front line with the teachers assisting teachers. There are a lot of classified staff who deserve credit for maintaining a safe environment. Without you, MUSD would have not been able to open or stay open. In closing, I'd like to say thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. I would like for you as board members to reach out to classified staff, see what they do. It was suggested that you mirror them for part of their shifts to see what they go through behind the scenes. They are an amazing group of individuals. They deserve to be recognized for what they give to the district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to our speakers. And we are moving on to item 16, report from district board members. We will go ahead and start with Scott, Mr. Tory.
Okay, I just have one thing to report. Back on the 11th, I attended the Ventura County School Board Association meeting. It was a short meeting. We voted for delegates, and I did not nominate any of you. So that was handled. And then there was a brief discussion about the 2020 census and how it will impact or potentially impact the redistricting of districts. And that was it. Very short meeting. I think we're out of there in less than 30 minutes.
Okay, great.
That's what I have.
Mrs. Adams.
So I attended on November 30th, the new orientation for school board members, as well as CSBA's annual conference on December 3rd and 4th. Those were all-day conferences and they were very informative as to my new job. So appreciate that ability to be able to attend that virtually.
Great, thank you. Mr. Sweet.
Nothing to report, no events I've gone to, but just another thank you very much and above and beyond, job well done by everybody, teachers and parents and all of our janitorial staff and nurses and everybody that's been diligently working to ensure that our students are safe and well educated.
Thank you. Mrs. Van Dam.
On November 30th, I had a Zoom meeting with the Ventura County School Board Association on their, I guess it's every third month they have a meeting, and this time the topic was district learning. And one of their presenters was our Moore Park alumni, Julie Judd was one of the presenters, and it was very interesting. On December 5th, I participated in Holiday on High Street, and I bring that up, it's a community event, but there was a lot of Moore Park students and staff there also volunteering. So it's nice to see the community come together for a good thing. Then on the 10th, Robert and I attended a personnel subcommittee meeting via Zoom. And I too would like to recognize and thank you, Dr. Hayes, and your staff for all you do, that you have worked tirelessly since the pandemic nonstop. And also to our staff and teachers who work with our students every day. Everyone is very much appreciated.
Thank you.
The holiday, I sure got a great finish.
Yeah, the Grinch.
I too would like to echo what my fellow board members said. Thank you to all of our staff, our teachers, Dr. Hayes, our cabinet, Borelli, everyone. Everyone's been doing such a great job, and I just commend all the teachers out there that I have 4 kids, so I'm able to, listen in on all of our teachers, and they're amazing. You're doing such a great job, and thank you for just bringing that smile to those kids. They needed that, and I see that in my home. So grateful for that. Also, I attended the Holiday on High Street, and that was just such an amazing event. The Grinch was there, and I think he's here today, still in costume. Mr. Van Dam. But it just was such an amazing event. We waited in line, we were patient, and the kids enjoyed it, had such a great time. I do want to remind everyone to, if you can, follow your school's Facebook page. Mr. Ebel put out an amazing vocal performance, and I would encourage all of you to like that page and share that video, because that's just a little bit of what our schools are doing. But they once again, did such a great job. Lastly, I want to again congratulate Amy Adams. We look forward to working with you. I also want to congratulate Mayor Parvin and Council Members Groff and Castro for Mayor Parvin for being reelected, and Groff and Castro for joining the council. So thank you. Oh, wait, I have to go on. Okay, moving on to item 17A. Board nominations for the 2020-2022 CSBA Delegate Assembly are being accepted through January 7, 2021. The following delegate is up for re-election in the sub-region 11B, Ventura County and Las Virgenes USD. Sabrina Rodriguez is up for Ventura USD. And there is also one vacancy in sub-region 11B. CSBA nominating procedures are detailed in the reference correspondence. Any action taken will be at the discretion of the board. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, this is an annual item on your agendas, and we would recommend approving that slate of school board members. They're a fine bunch.
Okay. So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the CSBA Delegate Assembly.
Motion by Uti Van Dam. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Scott Tory. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Moving on to item 17. It is recommended that the board discuss and consider approving all Moore Park Unified School District schools to be placed on distance learning following the winter break, January 5th through the 15th, 2021, with in-person learning resuming on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Any action taken will be at the discretion of the board. Dr. Hayes.
Okay, before I begin, we did receive public comments, so I am several here, so I'm going to go ahead and read them. And the ones that are signed by many people, I will just say the number of people who signed it rather than read all the names, just for the sake of time. So the first one is from Walnut Canyon. Dear Moore Park Unified School Board members, due to the recent rise of COVID-19 in Ventura County, the following staff members at Walnut Canyon School would like to ask you to consider returning all schools in MUSD to the distance learning model of education for 14 days following our winter break. Return to distance learning for 14 days would allow families and staff who want to self-quarantine the option of doing so without disrupting our quality of education here in MUSD. And this is signed by 25 teachers at Walnut Canyon. The next one is from Brian Freifeld, MEA President. Dear MUSD School Board Trustees, it is a good idea that staff and students be placed on distance learning following winter break. Experience demonstrates that while MEA and MUSD can script safer work conditions on campus, we cannot script what occurs off our campuses. Regarding the possible change in schedule, I suggest that the impetus behind any and all alternations should be done so in the name of the academic, social, and emotional well-being of staff and students. If the proposed change can improve the mental and physical health of MUSD employees, our students, and our families, by all means, let's change the schedules. Sincerely, Brian Franklin. And the next one is from 19 teachers at Mountain Meadows. Dear MUSD School Board members, we are writing to you to express our overwhelming concern regarding the immediate return to on-campus instruction following the winter break. We are asking for your consideration in delaying return to in-person learning for 2 weeks with a return to school date of January 19th, 2021. Given current COVID spikes in our county and community, and acknowledging that many families will travel and gather regardless of the county stay-at-home order, we feel that a preventative stance is essential. Although we can recommend that students stay at home if they have traveled or gathered in large groups, we cannot enforce this. We have already been informed by families that holiday travel and gatherings beyond primary households are planned. It is our experience after the recent Thanksgiving break that many families did not take this recommendation seriously. We currently have a confirmed COVID positive student and several others who are quarantining after holiday exposure. This does not take into account other students who were likely exposed during the break but are not aware of their exposure. We know this to be true at other school sites as well. This unnecessarily exposes all staff and students to an unacceptable risk. We can avoid a repeat of this scenario in January by proactively taking preventative measures and delaying the start of in-person instruction for 2 weeks. We feel that this is a minor program delivery modification that will ensure the safety of all stakeholders. Other local schools have already put a similar plan in place and have decided this is the best alternative for all involved. As concerned and frankly vulnerable teachers who are on the front lines on a daily basis, we are urging you to give this matter serious consideration. This next letter is from 6 teachers at Florey. I'll read the names since there's only 6. Ellen Bailey, Kathleen Canfield, Stacy Derringer, Diane Perry, Kathy Peters, and Julie Weinrock. Dear trustees of MUSD, thank you so much for your tireless efforts to support the students of our community. We appreciate the time and energy you have dedicated to our children during this global pandemic and time of great uncertainty. We understand that you are considering transitioning all student learners to distance learning for the 2 weeks following winter break. We respectfully ask and encourage you to make that decision. We hope it would serve to slow the spread of COVID. Also, we believe that distance learning for all is superior to an unpredictable synchronous schedule for the blended cohorts for what could easily be more than just 2 weeks. Furthermore, knowing now that blended cohorts will transition to distance learning for 2 weeks after winter break helps families and educators be better prepared. Thank you for your consideration. We understand this is a complicated situation and appreciate your time and listening to our request. This next one is from Eusebia Brahada, MEA Executive Board Representative and elementary teacher. Dear MUSD School Board Trustees, I urge you to place our staff and students on distance learning after winter break. Our Mopar community and therefore our school community has seen an increase in cases after the fall break. Sadly, our school site has experienced the effects of this as well. Many of our families have expressed that they will be traveling out of state and out of the country for the winter break. Our schools work diligently to keep us as safe as possible, but with our families traveling this winter, it opens up the possibility of unsafe conditions for our MUSD staff, students, and their families too. Thank you for your time and consideration. This one is from Ken Lemons, who is a teacher at Mohawk High School. Dear MUSD School Board Trustees, I write you this letter to implore you to temporarily change our educational setting to distance learning for the 2 weeks following winter break. Based on data and the weeks following July 4th, Halloween and Thanksgiving, it is clear that the increase in positive cases was directly related to holidays. While we can control the safety protocols and guidelines on campus, we cannot control what our students and their families do over break. For the safety of our students, staff, and teachers, please allow us those 2 weeks to safely learn and teach from our homes and then transition back into the classroom once we have a safe distance from the holidays and break. In the current educational setting, parents are given the choice of whether or not they feel safe and comfortable sending their children to school and can choose the option of keeping their children home during the spike in cases. The MUSD School Board has chosen to operate in a blended learning model, so teachers and staff no longer have that choice. Please allow us this opportunity to keep our students, our families, and each other safe. Thank you for your consideration. This next one is from 23 teachers at Campus Canyon. Dear school board members, as you can imagine, teachers and staff are eagerly anticipating the start of our winter break. For us, the winter break provides the opportunity to isolate and keep our own families safe from the coronavirus and a controlled environment. Every day we must contend with the thought that we ourselves may have been inadvertently exposed. With the virus escalating all around us, it is good to know that we can follow state guidelines for the general population and keep ourselves and our families safe. When we're working on campus, we don't have that luxury. As you know, teachers and staff risk exposure each day that they are on campus. It would be wonderful if we could teach our students via distance learning for the 2 weeks following winter break. So many of our students' families will be socializing and interacting with extended family and friends. Some might even be traveling out of state. Unfortunately, we might not always know when a child has been engaging in social activities that might expose them and their families to the coronavirus. With a vaccination on the horizon, we are so close to making it through this terrible pandemic. Giving us that 2 weeks of self-quarantine could make a big difference in keeping the virus at bay for many students and staff members of the Moorpark Unified School District. Thank you for listening to our concerns. We here at Campus Canyon wish all administrators and board members a very happy and safe holiday. And this one is from Ashley Cooper, who is a parent in our school district. Good morning. Please include my public comments for items 17B and 17C. So I'll just read 17B right now. Our MUSD teachers have gone above and beyond to ensure that our students receive the best possible education experience during the COVID pandemic. The MUSD teachers are true heroes. As a 20-year veteran in education, I cannot be more proud to have my daughters in the USD schools. With that said, we owe it to our teachers and staff to take the 2 weeks after winter break and distance online learning to ensure the safety and well-being of our employees and Moorpark in general. That way, we can feel confident that our students are healthy after their winter activities when they return to school. Please support our teachers and staff by allowing the 2 weeks after winter break to be online. The next one is from 3 teachers at Aurora West: Lee Brescoff, Samantha Frias, and Lindsay LaRocca. Dear MUSD School Board trustees, as the numbers continue to increase in Moorpark, we would like to urge you to place our staff and students on distance learning after winter break. Many families will be traveling during this time, and it opens up the possibility of unsafe conditions for our MUSD staff, students, and our families too. Returning to schools puts so many people at an unnecessary risk. Thank you for your time and consideration. This next one is from Lisa McCarter, kindergarten teacher at Aurora West and MEA vice president. Dear school board member trustees, I am writing this letter in the hopes that you will consider our return to school being moved to January 19th, 2021. I have seen firsthand the way that COVID-19 has affected my family. Upon my first symptoms on December 4th, I got tested immediately and isolated myself in my bedroom. Even with my husband and sons far away from me at all times and wearing masks as food is dropped outside my room, both of my sons and my husband later tested positive. One son and my husband have been sick and miserable for days. My other son has had no symptoms but is positive. All 4 of us cannot go to work. All of our lives are drastically altered, even though none of our cases are severe. I am grateful that none of us have a case we cannot handle at this point, but this has not been an easy week and a half, to say the least. My illness and diagnosis came at the same time as a student in my kindergarten classroom. My class has been shut down and we are on distance learning. I do not want this to happen to other families in my classroom, my school, or our district. Giving our families the opportunity to learn from home, I believe will greatly reduce the risk of spreading it like wildfire after winter break. Thank you for your consideration. Okay, the next one is from 32 teachers and looks like a counselor as well, from Chaparral. Dear MUSD School Board, we are writing today in strong support of the proposal to in-state 2 school weeks of distance learning after winter break. As our school board, you are the voice for our students and our district workers. As staff members who have the experience working on our school sites, we believe the ethical decision would be to do our part to keep our community members safe through distance learning to ensure that our students, families, and staff do not contract or spread COVID-19 on our campus. MUSD made a sound decision by requesting parents keep their children at home if they traveled or socialized in large groups over Thanksgiving break. As a result, teachers saw many of their in-person class sizes decrease by half, if not more. Furthermore, many parents are now choosing to change to distance learning only. Based on this observation, parents are sending a clear message that they feel safer by having their children stay at home, especially after a holiday season. The sad truth is the number of positive COVID-19 cases is rising. According to the County of Ventura, in the past 14 days, there have been 3,540 positive cases. In addition, the County of Ventura has reported only 9.2% adult ICU bed availability. Based on this trend, there is a strong probability that students and their families traveling for the holidays will further generate an increase in the positivity rate. Ventura County is under a stay-at-home order, and many businesses are doing their part to prevent our medical personnel from being overwhelmed by increasing cases. As the leaders of our district, we strongly encourage you to initiate the 2-week distance learning after winter break. As a staff, our priority is the health and safety of our students and our colleagues, many of whom have pre-existing conditions or families with pre-existing conditions that put them at risk. This year has taught us that for the good of all, we need cooperation and consideration. It has not been an ideal year, but it is important that we all do our part to keep everyone in our community and surrounding communities safe. Thank you for your serious consideration of this proposal. Okay, and this is an email that I received from Kirsten and Jim Falsey, who are parents in our district, and they asked me to read this. Hello, Dr. Hayes. I hope this email finds you healthy and well. I know you're trying to get through the next week before break, but I wanted to ask you if you or the district board has given any thought to delaying the return to school from winter break at least 2 weeks. I know you and school principals requested families stay home and quarantine for 2 weeks if they traveled over Thanksgiving, but not everyone heeded your advice and took it seriously. I know of a family with 2 kids at our school, Walnut Canyon, that traveled out of state for the week of Thanksgiving. They decided to send them to in-person blended learning the Monday school was back in session and for the following weeks. This is unfair and an unnecessary risk to the students and staff who are doing everything they can to stay safe at home. I know we're relying on the honor system and we all hope that people do the right thing, but this isn't always the case. Waiting 2 weeks to return to blended learning in January would capture those families that traveled over the Christmas break and keep them at home quarantined. This next one is from Joey and Corrine Casillas, parents of 2nd and 4th grade, and they have a kindergarten coming in next year. Hello, I want to start off with thanking the incredible school district staff, teachers, and volunteers. We appreciate that this year and our children's childhoods are being taken into account along with the virus precautions. Our children all need routines, some more than others. We strongly feel like it is unnecessary to take a break after winter break and go back to distance learning for 2 weeks. First of all, our children are set into the routine and it will make them backtrack and cause a disruption and the only consistency they have finally received. Secondly, some of the parents who were fortunate to continue working or restart working in person will find it impossible to stay home and supervise the distance learning for 2 weeks. The younger children need a lot of assistance at home as well as supervision. Lastly, there have been a very small number of isolated incidents of COVID, and it is not spreading through the school with staff or multiple positives in a cohort, so we don't see what the advantage would be of keeping everyone home for an additional 2 weeks. We all expected that there would be a few positive virus cases and are thankful the precautions are helping it from spreading. During break, most people are staying home, and for the few that do travel, they will be able to extend their trips for 2 more weeks and do school remotely. So I don't see how this can help prevent anything. We are respectfully asking that we do not do distance learning for 2 weeks after break. These kids have been through so much and are adapting so well to all the rules and restrictions. We hope that they will not have to backtrack and go back online and then readjust to it in person. Thank you for your time and consideration. Okay, the next one is from our counselors, Melissa Aguirre, Nancy Anaya, Betsy Davis, Sergio De La Rosa, Diane McIntosh, Omero Magana, Darcy Denman, Mario Morales, and Paola Reyes. Dear MUSD School Board, Many of our communities are enduring the recent spike in COVID-19 numbers. In an effort to slow the spread of the virus, a number of state officials have recommended the closing of schools and businesses. As you know, the Moore Park Unified School District has made the difficult decision to reopen our schools for hybrid, in-person, as well as distance learning education. This effort is aimed at limiting the spread of COVID-19 virus and is in accordance with state recommendations, while still offering the opportunity for students to experience in-person instruction at least part of the day. With our schools open for hybrid and distance learning to students and staff, our school counselors, K-12, continue to be committed to serving the MUSD community and providing ongoing guidance and resources. We support the recommendation to wait to reopen our schools for in-person instruction until after the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. We believe that we will still be able to provide direct and indirect academic, social, emotional, and college and career services to our students and families through distance learning while keeping everyone safer after the holidays. We thank you for your dedication and support to ensure the safety of our families and staff. This next one is from a parent in our district named Rutu Daman. Hello, my name is Rutu Chautre Daman, a parent of students at Florey. I want to start by thanking the staff at Florey for the tremendous job they have done in this new normal. The level of dedication the staff have shown should be commended, and the leadership provided by Principal Silva cannot be overstated. My question to the board is this: what steps are being taken post-holiday shutdown to ensure a safe return for staff and students for those participating in in-person learning? It's clear post-Thanksgiving break that not everyone took proper precautions or followed the stay-in-place order. This one is from Moore Park High School, and it's from 23 teachers. Dear MUSD School Board, we are writing to you today in support of the idea to institute 2 school weeks of distance learning for all students after winter break. Over the holidays, many students will be socializing with their extended families, friends, and others outside their homes during this time. Others are traveling outside the state and country as well. As we know, cold and flu season is typically at its most rampant in the winter months after our December and January break. The crossover between flu and coronavirus symptoms and general rise of sick individuals makes it much harder on medical personnel and increases stress to our already overburdened hospitals. Thus, we as teachers feel the most responsible thing that we can do to support the community during this time is to have 2 weeks of at-home instruction in order to ensure the safety of our students, teachers, and support staff. This will also help us do our part to decrease community spread. Thank you for your serious consideration of this proposal. And this one is from Mesa Verde teachers, and it's signed by 28 of them. Dear MUSD School Board members, it is truly amazing to think that the world will soon have a vaccine for what has become the pandemic of our lifetime. While we dream about what that means for us, for our families, for our community, it is imperative that we continue to do whatever it takes to finish this exhausting journey and arrive safely to the cure. It would be shameful after all we've done to do anything less. So what can we do? As a school system, it would be wise to employ 2 weeks of district-wide distance learning after winter break to isolate ourselves from those who just couldn't postpone travel or gathering with family and friends. Why not do what numerous conscientious families did after Thanksgiving? By following the guidelines of our health experts, they did the right thing by our school community and Moore Park at large. They knew that while students don't generally become as ill as adults, their children would be vectors of the disease to others. This is just the right impulse at just the right time. After all we've been through, both personally and collectively, we must do all we can to make it the last mile. It would be shameful after all we've done to do anything less. And the final public comment is from Jackie Flame, who is a Moore Park High School parent of a sophomore. And it was an email. Good morning, Dr. Hayes. I am emailing my input regarding the proposal to keep the kids in distance learning for 2 additional weeks. I worry every day for the mental health of these kids. In light of the young freshman who took her life last week in a neighboring district, taking these kids further from their routine terrifies me. The reality is, people who want to vacation will do so in more affordable January now. The cabin we live in Big Bear drops from $1,500 per night over winter break to $400 per night in early January. Of course, the hope is people who do this will quarantine, but those who aren't going to in the first place will not now. It just opens up more travel time. This won't logically cause anyone to stay home the extra 2 weeks. Respectfully, my family asks that you reconsider keeping the kids home the extra 2 weeks. But as always, we understand whatever decision you make. Thank you for always being an open ear. All right. So that concludes public comments. And so then, yes, so now I'm just going to just read a little proposal that I have. It just explains the item and then we'll be open for discussion. So the request to reinstate 2 weeks of distance learning after winter break reflects a plan to address our concerns about the surge in COVID cases that is occurring now in the country, state, and nation. To date, our schools have been very fortunate in that we have had very few, if any, COVID transmissions. When I say that, we are unable, we believe we may have 1 or 2 transmissions from our schools, but we're unable to prove it. But we could have, but either way, we have had very, very few, and we're very proud of them. The COVID cases that we have had primarily have been brought to our schools rather than having been caught from our schools. However, these last 2 weeks following Thanksgiving have seen our positive cases almost triple, and we've had several cohorts have to go to distance learning as a result. One of the other issues is that we have a severe shortage of substitute teachers. So if our teachers get sick and are unable to teach, we have been having difficulty covering classes. This shortage of substitutes is countywide, and all the districts are facing this challenge. Although warnings from our state and county public health officer have been issued, there is a likelihood that gatherings will continue and may be even more prevalent over the winter holiday. As a district, we have done a tremendous job in keeping our schools safe for our students and staff. It appears a successful vaccine may be just weeks away, so staff is recommending going to distance learning after the winter break for 2 weeks to ensure that our students and staff remain safe and what will hopefully be the last surge of this virus. Our 2 district nurses concur that this is the best move, and the Ventura County Public Health Department supports this proposed action as well, and has assured us that we can reopen all of our schools on January 19, 2021.
Go ahead and open up for questions from the board, comments.
Yeah, just some comments. This is, obviously, I want to say contentious. I don't believe it's contentious, but there are 2 sides to this. I completely understand where our teachers are coming from, and I understand the concerns of our parents. Cases are on the rise. This is not a good sign. As the case number increases, even though that's not actual people hospitalized, we even see those numbers going up. I would like to, for the sake of our parents, just bring to their attention, if you look at the numbers, if there is good news in this, the death rate, the mortality rate in this county is decreasing. Okay, but that being said, there's still a threat to our students, and more so to our teachers and to our elderly. Another concern that I have here, which is beyond our level with this school district, is the ongoing economic impact. I've been reading reports about the mortgage industry, and there are some very large storm clouds brewing. But again, that is not something that we can handle at this level. With that being said, I feel the right thing at this point would be to support this motion. Even though we know there's no guarantee that we don't have families that take the 2 weeks, as Ms. Flane suggested, and they travel more. There are some things beyond our control, but I do believe at this point it would be a prudent move on the part of this board to support this motion or this resolution recommendation.
Any other questions?
I just think as much as the county and state numbers are going up, it's continuing to go up, and the transmissions in our schools have been extremely low to no transmissions that we know of. So that's a testament to the safety measures that have been put in place for the safety of our students and teachers and staff. So that's extremely encouraging for sure. I think that something that, the numbers after Halloween was the first kind of super spreader event, Thanksgiving, the numbers have continued to go up from that point on. And they're worried about now the flu season and COVID kind of merging together to around Christmas time, or the holidays in general, and New Year's to really explode the numbers. And our ICU availability in the county is
1.4.
1.4%. So it's low, with that said, I don't know if the postponing of this or the return to distance learning for 2 weeks is necessarily about the numbers in the county so much as the, kind of the flaunting of this stay at home or the no travel or the self quarantine. If you have traveled, I've received or seen people saying that we're going to travel, we don't care. I'm sending my kids back. We've had instances where we've had at least one parent give their child who they knew was sick, give their child Tylenol and send them to school, of which was caught early, and that was with a child in elementary, middle, high school. So I mean, that's where I think that's what we're worried about. That's what I'm worried about more than anything, even more than the numbers, because if we come back on the 19th, as we're proposing, the numbers could continue to move upward beyond that date. So I think that it's not necessarily about the county or the statewide numbers, because they may continue to rise after the 19th. And, I could see people saying, you went back to distance learning that when the numbers were at this level, now they're higher and you're going to return. That seems, counterintuitive. So I think for me, personally, my decision is that essentially or the rationale that I'm using is that this is about our students, teachers, staff that will be traveling, that will be getting together with extended family, and that this would allow the 14 days. So if we were going to come back on the 4th original, we've got Christmas or holidays and New Year's, we would come back on the 4th, there'd be some travel time, say if you stayed, with your family beyond the 1st. Few people would probably travel on the 1st, it would probably be 2nd or 3rd with a eventual return date on the 4th. That being said, 10 days would put us at the 14th, which is a Thursday, right? And so Thursday before a 3-day weekend, 14 days puts us at the 19th, which is the Tuesday. That's where the exposure and incubation period would be at its, or would show up, positive cases would show up during that exposure and incubation period. So I think that's the thing that I would like to let people know is it's not just about the county cases going up so much as this is about the cases that we've seen, the increase in cases that we've seen, the quarantine is going back to distance learning for some of our classrooms. My daughter had a classroom, same thing, that she went back to distance learning because her teacher was either a close contact or became ill. We have an issue with the possibility of not having enough subs in case teachers do get ill, and exposing our students and teachers during this 14-day incubation period or this period after a return after the holidays. So a return on the 19th, the Tuesday after the 3-day weekend, this isn't going, in my mind, isn't about, the numbers may be higher, but we're talking about the travel, people getting together over the holidays, and that 14-day window. Does that make sense to people?
I think that makes sense because you're talking. I like what you said about this is about our MUSD group, our family. It's not about the county or anyone else. This is about the people we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So I echo that. I think that is a good example of what Dr. Hayes is putting in place here. So I do agree. I think that would help our teachers. again, our teachers have done such a great job at this, in keeping our students safe. And I fully support, this, with having this return back on January 19th. Just it's going to help in a lot of ways. And, I too have had my kids in the classroom that has been exposed, and we've gotten the call, and the teachers did a great job at addressing it and really not making a big deal of it with the students. So, the students weren't really, affected by it, but at the same time, they knew, okay, we have that option to go and do this at home. 2 weeks of distance learning is 2 weeks of distance learning. I mean, it can be done, and then we'll go back on January 19th, and again, the numbers could be high all over, but it'll at least help our little environment to to see where we're headed. I also like what I heard in the letters is that it's right around the corner. I mean, we have hope that this is going to get better. My hope is that we're back to school, in a normal way. But I think this is a good start for moving forward, and I support this.
And I think also we've gotten, or at least we've gotten confirmation from the county that moving back to this blended learning temporarily, really a pause. It's not a return so much as a pause in person, in blended learning. We don't need permission to go back. It will be a 2-week pause, and it doesn't affect our status or standing in the county or the state. We can return as we see fit. And for myself, so just, I guess, to answer that
Yes,
question.
that is correct.
Okay, so we have asked permission from the county to make sure we have something ready that we can go back. And then just speaking for myself, this is not, this pause in our blended learning is not a return to distance learning from here on out. It is that pause to take care of, for safety reasons, for the exposures that people are going to have over the holiday break, and that we're going to return, even if the numbers countywide or statewide are higher, for those reasons of our exposure and people not quarantining and not reporting and isolating. So that's my reasoning for that. But I think some people that I've heard from are worried about this being the end of blended learning. And I think, and for myself and for the parents that I've talked to, my own my own experiences have been that returning to blended learning for them was great. The parents I've talked to, they love the fact that we're back doing this. They think it's better for their children, not others like the distance learning, which is totally up to them. But for the people that have returned, the feedback that I'm getting is that they think it's been beneficial for their students and their children. So I don't want people to think, at least for me, that this is the end of blended learning so much as it's a 2-week pause in blended learning until this incubation period is over.
Kind of like a 2-week automatic quarantine, right? Basically, for if you can.
I mean, you could look at it that way, but it is a pause. We have all intentions of opening up January 19th.
Yeah.
Because we feel like our school, the community spread in Moore Park would be minimized as much as possible after the holidays.
And the other thing is, you read how many letters? I mean, this is a good amount of teachers wrote in who have seen our students, the last month or two. So they've been able to see what is best for forthcoming, and this is what they're recommending as well. So I think it's, the 2-week pause is good. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think that continuing with distance learning for 2 weeks is a small temporary change, which may have a huge impact on the health and safety of our staff and teachers and students and their families. So, like you said, it's a pause, it's not permanent, and it's something that we've done before, and I think for 2 weeks we can all do it again.
Yeah.
If I may speak,
Please do.
So I've, kind of agonized about this, obviously, both as a parent, because I have 4 kids in our district right now, so I know what that means as a parent. Also, I've heard from teachers, and we obviously heard the letters, and I know that's agonizing for teachers too. So it's put me in a very difficult situation where I feel like I lose both ways. And so I really want to make the decision of what is the right thing to do. And I think that's what's hard, is that it's because this is such an unknown. We don't really know. But I guess what I'm kind of stuck on right now is the transmission rate. And that's really the number that I keep on coming back to, is what is the transmission rate in our actual schools? Are our schools spreading? Are we super spreaders at our schools, or are we not? Because obviously the numbers are surging in our community, which is really a cause for concern, and the ICU availability is a big cause for concern. But thank you to Moorpark, everyone in Moorpark Unified, for making sure that our schools are a safe place, because like you said, there's been, perhaps only 2 direct transmissions at our schools. And so if we are not spreading it at our schools, if we know that when the kids come there, it's all the protocols, all the safety protocols are already in place to be safe, and it is not spreading. I guess I'm just left with wondering, what purpose does this serve? If not, because if we're already stopping that spread at the school site, can we talk about what purpose does it serve then to put a pause on this? If we're not spreading it at school.
Well, I think that the numbers right now have been relatively low overall of cases. And I think, so I think this is more, it's more of a preventative measure from having more kids show up in a cohort that may be asymptomatic, and then it does increase the chances of transmission. So you're absolutely right. Our staff, honestly, the entire MUSD, staff community has done an amazing job. So, and you're right, the hardest part about this entire process has been, this is the first time we've ever done this.
And this is incredibly difficult. And
nothing is for sure. You're absolutely right. We didn't know for sure opening our schools in person would be the best thing. We thought, well, hopefully it will work. It has worked, in terms of preventing, transmission being really low. And there's been other things that we didn't anticipate that have happened that have been challenges. So there's a lot of things that we have anticipated that have occurred, and things that we have not anticipated that have occurred. So just with the information that we have and seeing, for me to recommend to the board, what I have seen is the last 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, the tremendous amount of scurrying about, if you will, with triple the amount of contact tracing, investigation, calling, putting, it's yesterday and today, we now are up to, I believe it's 9 or 11 positive cases, and we've never had that many over 2 days. So, and I think that, again, based on what I have just read, and again, I'm not a health expert, but advice I've been given, I believe that the potential for gatherings over this particular winter break is greater than just over Thanksgiving break. It's twice as long. There's 2 key holidays that people could argue might be more tempting to get together with family or friends. So my whole point is it's really more trying to maintain our record of having little or no transmission and not risking that.
Well, and some special considerations too here is, I really worry about our special population, like special ed. That's a big concern to me, of putting them out for 2 weeks when they and their families are the ones that really need to be in school. Same with our English language learners that maybe don't have the same kind of supporter structures in place. And or parents that lack childcare. I just send kind of people back into that tailspin. And that's, I'm concerned about those special populations. And I'm wondering if there's some sort of compromise we can make where we put a pause for 1 week, and that puts us 10 days out from January 1st. Is that something we're willing to consider, or is it kind of 2 weeks or nothing? I just feel like this is going to be hard on our families, on our children. So is there any other thing that we can consider besides the full 2 weeks?
The only thing that I can think of for 1 week versus 2, because I like the idea of less time for sure, is that if we did 1 week, our return would be on the 7th, maybe? Is that right?
It'd be on
Well,
the
January-
11th.
Yeah.
On the 11th.
11th.
So that would be, we were supposed to return on the 4th, people travel. And originally, the 10 days from the 1st would be the 10th, but people wouldn't travel on the 1st, it would be the 2nd or 3rd, is what we had kind of anticipated. And that would put us beyond that Monday. The 10 days would be into the middle of that week. So that was the only reason.
And
The
the
Martin
holiday.
Luther King, that's right.
MLK holiday.
So we actually have January 4th off, so January 5th is when we do the first day back.
Okay, thank you. So that puts us more, 10 days after that would have been, say, 14, 15.
Now, I understand that the Boys and Girls Club, they're gonna be open during this time too, right? So you
They
can
are.
talk to
So
someone
we do have a
today.
childcare situation, because I really am concerned about for those families.
With the students currently in, and I really can't speak for Boys and Girls Club in terms of if they have additional space. Do you know? No,
Yeah, I think it's just more for the people
But
that
it's
are
that
already
who are
enrolled.
currently in it would still have that availability, but I don't know if people who would need additional care, if that could occur or not.
Okay.
You know. But I have to, I don't have the numbers, and I can always get the numbers in terms of how many of our classes have had to go to distance learning. But it's quite often, I mean, we're having quite a few now go into distance learning, so our families have been adapting. We haven't had complaints in terms of when the principals, when they call and have to close a cohort, because either the teacher or we don't have a sub. We haven't received complaints. I mean, the parents have been very cooperative, understanding that we have to do this to stay safe, and they've been very flexible. So I do think there's more of an inherent flexibility than in times past, but I do absolutely share your concerns. I mean, it's not an easy decision. I mean, you're right, there's not.
It's agonizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. This is agonizing. I mean, I didn't articulate it well, but that's the point I was trying to bring up. And again, this is going to be impacting parents, and it's those parents that my guess is that they're self-employed. They're the ones that, they are not guaranteed any money. But on the bigger picture, again, my concern is we've got a great record so far. I think, like you said, I think we're all in agreement. Our teachers and staff, our custodials, everyone's doing a great job. I would hate to, at this point, have something go sideways. But I do have concern for those parents. Like I said, I brought up there's a storm brewing in the mortgage industry. I don't want to get into it too much. Again, it's not at our level here. So we are concerned about the parents. But what gives me confidence and hope in this is, like as we have said, this is kind of a reset. This isn't the first time we've done a distance learning. And we have had teachers that unfortunately have had to switch to distance learning. And we've rallied fairly well.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there is the bigger picture here. My daughter received a phone call on Sunday and said that her teacher wasn't going to be in Monday, and we had to figure it out. I mean, this is going to give them some notice. I'm sure the message would be, if the board does approve it, we'd be notifying them immediately. That way they know that this is, this is coming. But I do, I do agree that there is going to be some struggles. Like you, I have 4 kids, it's struggling with, but it's a different time right now. And just like in the workforce, we've had to make changes. I think that what Dr. Hayes said was that, hearing today that there's 9 cases that have already arose, it's okay. We're probably getting more of that Thanksgiving and extended, and I do see that, yes, our protocols are working in school, but I do think that there are many reasons why we should move it to January 19th, and I do, I do echo, I trust what the teachers are saying in this, in their letters, and I think, it's one of those things that here or there, we're not gonna win either way, but we have to do what's best for the students. And the numbers are spiking, and like Nathan said, if we can minimize this in our community, be proactive with this, then Dr. Hayes would have brought this to us if it wasn't a good idea. So we don't have any other comments or questions.
Well, I guess the other concern Nathan brought up too, what happens January 19th when the numbers are still the same? Will there be pushback from educators, from families, from people telling us to please not go back? I mean, that's another concern for me. It's like, does that then pave the road? Because, we all know in person is better for our children. And so I guess I just want some reassurance that we will go back to
I think
that in
hearing
person.
from these letters, a lot of these teachers did not want to go back, in previous board meetings.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't hear one letter that said, we want to move to complete distance learning. They all have the goal to go back. And a few of them actually said, this is good for our students, but we just need this, this will help us. So I really, of course, with Dr. Hayes talking to the county, we're okay with the 2 weeks. As Nathan said earlier, this is not I think if the numbers are high, we're going back. I mean, we opened the schools, we opened the schools at a difficult time. We'll go back to 19th. I mean, that's our decision, and we're gonna, we put our students first in that. But on these letters, I didn't hear anything about not wanting to go back indefinitely.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I think that this is this is just something that they feel will help, and I don't see any problem with it. I mean, I think we're gonna go back. I mean, that's our plan.
I appreciate Amy's point in that, what happens next?
Yes.
What happens after the 19th when the cases are higher? So that, I think, and that's a concern of mine also.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that what we're talking about in this case is about our students and staff, getting together over the holidays and traveling. And this is about their 14-day essentially quarantine while we distance learn and then coming back.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the county cases are, because we're talking about our own cohort, our own district. And just talking about, the bigger picture and all that, Ms. Adams' point is that, she's looking at, this is going to adversely affect a certain population of our students. And so we do need to take that into consideration, because that's a serious concern of mine also, along with yours, is that we do have some special needs kids. We've got some people that were not doing well distance learning solely, but this is going to be 2 weeks worth. To your point, it's
There's a
a
kind of
serious
cost
consideration.
benefit
Yeah.
analysis here. Does the purpose of, it sounds like what the purpose is it allays fear, right? Like it makes the staff feel like more safe, and that they feel like, okay, if we have this 14-day time pause, if we're calling it a pause, then they come back and they feel safer, they feel heard, they feel like we are doing, the best to support them in a safe environment.
I'm hoping.
And so that's,
For me personally, I hope it does allay some fear secondarily, because really, primarily, it's about our students and staff staying home for those 14 days after the holidays and quarantining in their home, so that we can return, we can identify new cases, new outbreaks for anyone that has traveled, gotten together with people outside their family and all of that. That's my reasoning behind the 2 weeks. Does it allay fears for our families and staff? I hope it does that too, but primarily, that's what I'm worried about, is that I want people to, that have traveled, that have not quarantined, that have gotten together with their.
right, and that come back to school without knowing they're sick or they're
Correct.
asymptomatic, spread it, and then whoops, I'm sick a couple days later, and then.
And we have close contacts. We go back to distance learning for several, classrooms or
Right.
schools, and closing the district and all of that on because we do have all these exposures or close contacts as opposed to us planning it. Have 14 days, pause, come back after that. That's my hope for that's my plan for the reasoning behind why I'm
Right.
for it. If, I hope it allays fears also, but that's the next one.
Secondary,
Yeah.
Okay,
Personally.
so the first, you're saying the first issue is really that quarantine, it's the chance
Yeah.
to quarantine and, okay,
After those close contacts, after
right.
the super spreader events, and then we come back after that. I hope it allays fears also.
I have full confidence in this board that we are coming back on the 19th. For
And with
myself,
that, I'd like to call for the question.
yeah, I was saying in the last comment, thank you, that I want to close this too, is that for me, barring the state coming in and saying everything is shut down.
Yeah.
My plans for this district to be going back to in person, with our
Well, and
blend
I think
on
the
the
board
19th.
would have to decide.
Right.
If we were to delay it, and
Yeah.
we have one school board meeting at the beginning of January, and we're set to come back the 19th, so.
Perfect. With that being said, I'd also like to call for the question. Or do we need a nomination?
You did a motion.
Nomination.
I would like to move that more parking by schools be placed on distance learning following this break, and with in-person learning resuming on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021.
We have a motion by Dr. Van Dam. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott Dettori. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to B2. It is recommended that the board discuss and consider modifying the existing secondary blended and distance learning schedules for Camps Canyon grades 6 through 8, Chaparral Middle School, Mesa Verde Middle, and Moorpark High Schools by combining the AM and PM cohorts into one group, and also go from 2 periods a day to 3 periods a day. The proposed schedules are included in the reference documents and will be discussed at length. The proposed start date will be January 5th, 2021. Any action taken will be at the discretion of the board. Dr. Hayes.
Okay, thank you. So this is somewhat related to 17B, and that we are recommending tonight a modification to the blended learning schedule of the public comment.
Oh, public comment, Dr. Hayes. You have one of
Oh,
those.
thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, Raleigh. Do we have any speakers?
Okay, okay, yes. All right, no, thank you for inviting me. So this is again from Ashley Cooper, and so she's submitted a public comment for both items. So this one is 17C. As for the restructuring of the secondary school day, educational research would support moving to a 3-period day rather than the current 2.5 hours of 2 classes a day. It is nearly impossible to effectively engage and actively learn during the whole 2.5-hour blocks. Even college students do not attend classes for this long. Students in grades 6 through 12 would benefit from 3 classes a day, so they would see their teachers more often and have instruction on a more frequent basis. These factors all lead to improved student learning. Please consider moving to 3 periods a day. So that was the public comment. And we had originally started off, if you recall, board, when we started the school year off in distance learning, because we were mandated, we had a 3-period a day distance learning schedule. Everyone agreed that that was a more effective schedule. However, one of the compromises, if you will, when we returned to in-person learning, was to create, we had to create only a 2-period day because we had, at the time, 2 cohorts of students. And so we did not have the ability to have 2 groups of students attend 3 classes a day. And so the result was, if we were going to in-person learning, the compromise was a 2-period day, and we had instructional minute requirements. So that's why that necessitated the 2.5-period classes, which we all agree are long classes. So the reason for this change today that we are proposing is that we have had an increased amount of students request distance learning. So our in-person cohorts have decreased at our secondary schools. We are now able to, in nearly every class, and there will be a couple classes where we'll have to maybe move to a larger classroom, But in nearly every class, we can combine our cohorts, and instead of having an AM and a PM group of students, we can have one group of in-person students. And so with that in mind, the teachers asked to form, they started sending me schedule. And so with my team, we met as a stakeholder group, a task force, and we had teachers from all 4 of our secondary schools, not the high school Moore Park College, because that is still on distance learning, but Campus Canyon, Chaparral, Mesa, and Moore Park High School. And we received their input, feedback, and in all cases, every single one was a 3-period, 90-minute of each period schedule. There was, of course, little intricate changes in each one. And the one that we settled on today is the one that reflects the most input and is actually realistically able to be implemented. And we do agree that shorter periods will actually increase learning. It's more effective instruction. It's more effective learning for our students. And but it's not perfect, because nothing about COVID or the pandemic is easy or perfect. So any concerns that we have is, so let me just briefly run through it. So at the high school, we would actually start the day a bit later for the first period of the day. Instead of starting at 8 o'clock, we would start at 8:30. And that was something the high school teachers really were strongly in support of. So we would have the first period of the day start at 8:30 to 10. There would then be a 15-minute cleaning period. And one of the, the results of this or consequences is that we would have our students needing to clean their own desk area and seat using hydrogen peroxide wipes, which that is the chemical only, hydrogen peroxide. It's used in most homes, but it's extremely effective in killing the COVID virus in 30 seconds or less if it is there. And so our students would be shown how to do it properly. Our teachers would be able to, supervise them, if you will, because again, we have class sizes of, keep in mind, 12 to 14 students, right? So it's not a class of 38. So they would write down their area, and then they would proceed to their next class. We would then, the next class would come in, and then at the end of the day, the classrooms would all be sanitized as they are with, the Clorox spraying that we do every night. So our custodians do an amazing job of thoroughly disinfecting their classrooms. And so after the second period of the day, they would then go home. The students would grab and go their lunch and go home, and there would be an hour break, and all students would then be on distance learning for the third period of the day. And so that allows them, however, and so it would rotate so that all the classes would have equal time in person and equal time distance learning. The middle school is the exact same schedule, except it starts at 9 o'clock. So it's actually the traditional start time that our middle schools have been before the pandemic. So that is the schedule that we are proposing. We had our stakeholders involved. We had our district nurses involved. We had our director of maintenance and operations involved. We had our director of food services involved. Our transportation expertise was involved. And this schedule works with all of our departments. And if we do have a student or two who they may have, let's just say, severe allergies, maybe they are allergic to hydrogen peroxide, we have custodians and staff, custodians on campus. They would be able to go and clean certain students if they identified their desks in that 15-minute period, because we would be able to mark those desks, and they would have a list of rooms. I need to go in and clean this desk, and then the other room. So they could assist if we have various students who, if their parents didn't want them to clean their desk, or they have allergies preventing them to do so. But that's truly the only way we could do a schedule like this, is we did need the students involved in the sanitation. So that's my summary. I'm happy to address any questions.
Questions from the board?
Okay, so no extra hours from custodial staff then. It's all student, and except for those few exceptions, like you said, it's all done by students.
That's correct. That's correct. And we do have
Cleaning up after themselves.
Yeah. So, but we do have some hours that would change. We have campus supervisors and campus aides. We do have some people. We ensure that no one would be reduced in their hours, but we might have to shift some hours, shift some times of hours. And so we're working with our classifieds with that.
I like the idea of starting at 8:30, because zero period has been tough to do zero period and then rush to to get to, in person. So that's gonna help our zero period students.
Right, the zero period is from 7 to 7:50, and then the students would have 40 minutes to get to school for first period.
Dad doesn't have to worry about rushing and. Any other questions?
Well, I think since March that our goal was to try to get back to normal. And this is one small step, getting back a little bit more normal of what, of a regular school year. So I think it's a great idea.
Yes, and for families, if this schedule did not work out for them, or they did not want their students at all participating, we always have the option of them to go on distance learning if they wanted to. Hopefully, students will try this, and I think that we have not heard anyone complain about a 3-period day. In fact, I've had requests since the beginning of the year, and some of them have made their way to the board strongly urging for 3 periods. Well, we couldn't when we had too many kids on campus, but now we're able to do it. We will, the other downside is if we do have more students who want to go in-person learning, we'll only have a limited space. However, what we're telling parents is that this is going to be the schedule we use till spring break. And then let's see what happens with the vaccine, and we'll see what the world is, in spring break.
Okay, just a quick question. So I know this only affects secondary sites, but does the elementary school stay on their current same schedule of time? Because I know that might be a conflict for some families. Is that going to stay the same?
It is
For
going to
them?
stay the same. The families, there have been some current conflicts with our schedule.
Yeah.
And so I
Okay.
think that this actually helps most people. It helps alleviate some of it because
Yeah.
there's a little bit more time in between.
Okay.
But for some, it could create a few hardships for others.
Okay.
There is that possibility.
Just making sure that stays the same. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? How about a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept this recommendation with the proposed start date of January 19th, 2021, instead of the 5th, it looks like.
Does this go, no, this starts on January 5th, right?
It's on
The 3
January
periods?
5th.
Yes, this would start right away because we would just have all 3 periods,
right.
be distance learning,
Yeah.
and then we would transition to in person on the 19th.
Okay, then in that case, I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Nathan Sweet. Do we have a second?
I second it.
That's second by
I think
Amy
it's a fabulous
Adams.
idea.
Let's notate that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving on to item D, 17D. It is recommended that the board reschedule its January meeting from January 12th to January 7th, 2021. I can't believe that. At 5:30. Any action will be taken at the discretion of the board. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, I just want to note that January 7th is a Thursday. So if the board is available, we would recommend moving the board up to January 7th.
Do we have a motion?
I have a question.
We have a question?
That'll be just in person, we can't zoom in if we're not able to come.
That meeting we will most likely Zoom that meeting because we'll be in that distance learning mode. So we can do it from here, but in different offices and Zoom in like we did previously.
Any other questions? Motion?
I move that the January 12th board meeting be scheduled to January 7th at 5:30.
Do a motion by Lucy Van Dam, second.
I'll second.
Second by Scott DeTore. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to item 18, consent action. Items proposed for the consent calendar are noted on the posted agenda and are considered by the superintendent to be of a routine nature. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any board member and placed under the appropriate action category. A roll call vote will be taken for the consent calendar so that any items requiring a roll call vote can be properly addressed. It is recommended that all consent items be approved. Does anyone want to pull any of these items? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion by Scott DeTore, second by Nathan Sweet. Arelli? Oh,
I can do it.
Dr. Hayes?
Yeah.
Amy Adams,
you would say aye.
Oh.
Sorry.
What do
We
we
just
do?
expect you to know this.
Aye.
We are not in,
Okay, Scott Tory,
aye.
Robert Perez,
Aye.
Nathan Sweet,
Aye.
Richi Van Dam.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to item, you're on personnel 26.
Yep.
It is recommended that the board approve the reference changes to the California School Employees Association, CSEA, Chapter 498 salary schedule to reflect the hourly rate changes to the minimum wage mandate from 13 an hour to 14 an hour for the state of California that goes into effect January 1st, 2021. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, so our salary schedule, due to the minimum wage mandate to $14 an hour, we have a few positions that will need to be changed to $14 an hour, so that we have all of our employees at the minimum wage, no lower than the minimum wage. So this is in accordance with state law.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Nathan Sweet, second by Yuki Van Dam. Any discussion?
Just a quick question for our CEO. Any significant impact from the increase in the minimum wage?
No, and it's already been included in first instance.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Was it?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, item 27, it is recommended that the board authorize the district to enact Assembly Bill number 908, Education Code Sections 35160.5A, and B, deeming all students eligible for athletics for the spring semester by suspending the 2.0 GPA requirement for the 2020-2021 school year only due to impacts of COVID. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, this item, staff recommends approval of this item in order to allow our students who may have seen their grades decrease this semester due to the circumstances that we're in. We have seen, obviously increased anxiety in students and families. And obviously our principals are reporting more Ds and Fs with our students. And that was also shared in our superintendent's meeting. It really is a phenomenon that's widespread. It's not just Moorpark Unified. So approval of this measure would allow our students to participate in athletics if in fact athletics occurred, and we're all very hopeful that they can to some degree. That if they did not get a 2.0 this semester, it would not prevent them from participating. And although one could argue that they would need additional time to study if their grades are, at a certain level, we would argue that this would be a social emotional boost and actually probably would have the reverse effect and actually help improve their participation and grades in school. So we recommend approval.
Something to look forward to. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve suspending the 2.0 GPA for.
I want you to read that whole code. Motion by Yuki Van Dam. Can we have a second?
I second it.
Second by Amy Adams. Any discussion? Yeah, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, before we move on to business, we'll let you get set up. We're going to take a short recess, 5 minutes, and then we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Anybody need water?
Actually, yeah.
Yes,
I love them.
all right, have you one?
We still won't go over anyone.
How's your boots?
I'll take one.
What else do you guys have?
Oh, the interim budget. You don't want to stick around for that?
Anything?
Okay, so you can use arrow keys or you can hit space
For
to
video, yeah.
go through slides.
Tired on.
It's a four-legged.
It's a 4-legged.
Oh, how fun. You got a four-legged edition one time. Oh, I want to see.
That's true or not.
Here's my gavel. Okay, we are reconvening and moving on to business 29. It is recommended that the board accept the district's first period interim report for the period ending October 31st, 2020, ratify the budget changes and file a positive certification that the district will be able to meet its final obligations in all district funds for the remainder of the fiscal year and 2 subsequent fiscal years. A copy of the complete report is on file at the district. Dr. Hayes, and our new CBO.
Yeah, so I'm very pleased to introduce and have our new CBO, Lynn David, will present our first item.
Okay, good evening, trustees, Dr. Hayes, district staff, and community. I appreciate being able to share the information with you tonight. Although it's required, it is, I think it's some good news compared to our adopted budget. So the first thing I'd like to share is just for everyone's edification, why do we do a first interim? What is the purpose of it? So we have 2 ed codes that speak to that. The first one is the ed code that talks about the requirement to have 2 different reporting periods. First interim, which goes through October 31st and then is reported by December 15th. And then the second one, which will be coming later in the year, is second interim, which goes through January 31st and will be presented to you by March 15th. The other reason is that we need to be able to have certification that we are able to meet our financial obligations, not just for this year, but for the 2 next years. So we want to make sure that we're always able to have sufficient funds to keep our programs and services continual for our students. Okay, so we have 3 types of certification that the board can choose to certify with. The first one is positive certification, which is what we are going to make a recommendation for at the end of the evening. That means that we are able to meet our obligations financially for the current year and the 2 subsequent years. The district is always working in the current year and then 2 years. In April, we'll be bringing you we'll be working on adopted budget. So we're constantly working in at least 3 years. The second certification that could happen would be qualified. It means that we might not be able to meet our obligations financially. And when we're talking about that, we have to meet a certain financial threshold. For a district of this size, we have to have a 3% reserve minimum. And then negative certification would be if we cannot meet our financial obligations in any one of those 3 years for 2 or more, and or we would have a negative fund balance. So again, we are going to make a recommendation for positive certification when we get through this and ask that you would approve that. So one of the things that is very important for us in planning our budget and monitoring our budget is monitoring our enrollment in ADA. First of all, and these are our planning factors that we look at when we develop the budget and monitor it. Enrollment drives both our staffing and our facilities needs. Our ADA is actually what drives our funding. So ADA is a function of how often the children that we have enrolled come to school. So if you look in the second column where it's white, it says increase and decrease. We are experiencing a declining enrollment trend. This current year for 2021 is actually a little bit more of a decrease than we've seen in the past. We believe that that's because many families are keeping their younger students home because of COVID. So that's a little bit of an anomaly that we're going to be watching. Then the next 2 years, the trend continues at approximately, actually a little bit less than it was before. Something, if you look into the far right-hand column where it says the factor, this is unusual because of COVID-19. The state has given us permission, all districts, as a matter of fact, it's called hold harmless. So rather than funding us at the current level where the ADA would be affecting us, we're actually funded at the level of the prior year, and that will continue for 2 years because the state recognizes the fact that districts are just, you know, a lot of families are choosing to keep their children home and it's not standard. So that's something to keep in mind. Other planning factors that we take into consideration building the budget are unduplicated pupil counts and pupil percentages. Unduplicated pupils are those who are English learners, low income, or foster youth. You can be any one of those things or all three of those things. You're counted once. But that's important to us as a district to count those students for two reasons, primarily because we want to be able to administer services to them. But as it relates to the budget, it's important to us because those students generate an additional 20% of our local control funding formula. So currently in this district, our 3-year rolling average is about 36%. So 36% of our students generate an additional 20% of funding. Other things that are important to us because of the amount of our budget that goes into salaries and benefits is monitoring our pension rates for both teachers and classified staff. Okay, so what we're going to look at first is our general fund revenue and our changes from adopted budget, preliminary budget that you approved back in June to first interim. Local control funding formula is where we get most of our money to operate the district. At adopted budget, it was around 51 million. It increased by approximately $4 million to $55 million. And I'll explain why in just a minute what drove these changes. Federal revenue also increased by about 3.6 million. Other state revenue increased by about 700 million or 700,000. We wish it was 700 million. Local revenue actually decreased. Now, overall, in total, our revenues increased by about $8.3 million. What drove those changes are the following things. Local control funding formula was originally going to have cuts. They were going to reduce the amount of funding that we actually got. And what happened instead is the state, after adopted budget, there's no way any district could have known because it happened after we all presented our budgets, was that the state chose to use deferrals instead. So deferrals are basically, we're going to get our money later. We're promised the money and we'll get it, but we're not getting it in the usual time frame. So it is important to us in the fact that 5 months of our payments are deferred into the next fiscal year. That affects not our budget as much as it affects cash flow. Just like in your home, if you were not going to get, if your paycheck was delayed, we're going to effectively be delayed 5 paychecks later in the year. So that did change because they didn't make the cut. So that really increased our funding. Learning loss mitigation funds, we got mostly federal funds, but also some other states. So if you look at where it says federal revenue and other state, those two amounts are the result of our federal funding that we got related to COVID. Local revenue actually decreased slightly because of the fact that we needed to close our campuses for the after-school care. And then one other factor as far as the revenue shows up is that we're not going to make a transfer out of another fund, our RDA funding. We don't have to do that this year after all because of the increase in funding in LCFF. So this is just a graphic representation of how the funding is divided up. As you can see, local control funding revenue is 81% of our funding. So the reason that's important again is it's where most of our money comes from to run our schools and pay our staff to do it. But remember that amount of money will have deferrals this year. Expenditures, for the most part, increased because we actually have money to do more of our programs and services, and that's what we need, what we want to do. So the areas that increased, certificated salaries increased, and you guys can read the amounts that they increased by, but benefits also increased, books and supplies, services and contracts increased, and capital outlay. The reason those increased is, of course, as it points out in the bullets, that certificated salaries and benefits increased for COVID-19 staffing. We did hire teachers when that money became available to provide additional support in our programs. Then supplies and services and contracted expenditures increased to support the programs that we're offering. All the Chromebooks that we're dispersing, the services that we have for hotspots, all of those things came under these areas of expenditures, which are in alignment with the increased funding. The learning loss funds must be spent this year or we will lose them. So it's not something that we can carry over into other years. So we did hire more staff, more equipment to offer the supplies and close that potential learning gap. Again, another graph to show where the money is divided up. Most of our funds go to our salary and benefits for certificated staff, classified staff and benefits. I'm sorry, I apologize. There's actually, I noticed it says category name and I have to look and see why that said that. But at any rate, this would be books and supplies. That would actually be services. So I apologize for that area. That actually where it says category name would actually be the services area. So that's approximately 12. So that does bring us to the summary where we combine all of that for the single year. So we have our beginning fund balance, which I'll point out, something that you'll note is that in beginning balance, $6 million was our projected beginning balance at adopted budget. When we did unaudited actuals and closed out the books, we actually had some more revenue than our estimated actuals. So our first interim beginning balance was a little bit better by about $500,000. Every year, our ending fund balances transfers into the beginning balance the next year. So that actually helped us out. Our revenue, so a total of, we now have $68.4 million, which is a positive impact on our fund balance of $8.4 million. We have additional expenditures. But at the end of the day, our ending balance is $5.3 million. So that was an increase over what we expected at adopted budget of $2 million. In a minute, we'll see why it's really important that that we have that addition and that we've reduced the amount of deficit spending we had. Changes in, as we noted before, changes in LCFF revenue and learning loss funds helped increase our revenues. Salaries, benefits, and supplies increased to match and provide services to our kids. We're not having to do the RDA transfer, not in this year, but we will later on. And we're not planning any additional cuts in this current year. So looking at our multi-year, so when we're making our positive certification, at the top of the page, it's the slide that's talking about multi-year projections and our MYP. So as I noted, the beginning balance on the top row is currently $6.6 million. Revenue is 68.4, expenditures 69.7. We have a little bit of deficit spending. Ending fund balance is 5.3. Now, if you look up into the second column, actually the third column where it says 2021-22, that becomes our beginning balance for the next year. We have revenues slightly less and expenditures because we won't be having those learning loss mitigation funds in that year, which is really why we're seeing a decrease in that year. Our expenditures will also decrease because we do have some reductions planned and we have to align that. And then our ending balance will be 6.3 million. Carrying that up into the next year, our beginning balance is 6.3. And then again, our revenues are 6.2 million. Now again, where we're gonna, or 62 million. The reason that we're seeing such a big decrease in that third year is because of the fact, remember we had the held harmless, that's where it's gonna kick in. Every district in California is gonna face a struggle in the third year out. And then beyond, because of the fact we've been held harmless. So normally you would see if you're in declining enrollment, a gradual decline. We're gonna be held harmless, and then we're gonna take a dip. Unless we can bring our kids back or the state changes what our revenues are. So we will see a significant decrease in that third year in revenue, and we'll have to match our expenditures for that. If you look on the last three rows under ending balance where it says 3% economic reserve, restricted, non-spendable, and assigned in each row, what that represents is what we must keep as a minimum. So that's 3% of our expenditures. The restricted are categorical programs. If we have carryover, what comes into the next year that we can't spend for anything other than those restricted purposes. Could also be our transportation funds. We cannot spend those for any purpose other than what they're designed for. And then our assigned funds are for board priorities or to be able to manage our budget at the next the next year. So again, the bullets point out and remind us that our ADA was held harmless, and then we'll see the impact in 2022-23. Step and column and STRS and PERS rate changes are included in our MYP. Where there's a hashtag, that is to remind us that there's revenue, that the revenue in the next 2 years, not the current year, but the next two, does include a transfer of 1.5 million each year from our RDA accounts at this point in time.
Each year.
Yeah, in 21-22, there's a 1.5, and then the next year also. And then where there's two hashtags, that represents the fact that we are going to have to look at making reductions. We'll have to address that later this year, so that in 21-22, we're aligning staffing with those changes in enrollment and the revenue that we don't have, because remember, we did hire staff specifically for, for our distance learning and our, our learning loss programs. And then the next year after that, currently what's included in the budget is the assumption that we would again right size our staffing to our revenues and to our enrollment. I included just a summary of the fund balances for our other funds. We have several other funds in the district that have specialized purposes. We have adult education fund, and those are completely different. Just like you might have a vacation account and a child, like a college account. These are separate purpose, separate funds for special purposes. So adult education, child development, cafeteria, deferred maintenance, building capital facilities, and our bond interest and redemption. But in the yellow towards the bottom, it does show a positive fund balance for each of the years. So what's important about this is if you have enough of fund balance, you can actually borrow internally. So remember how we're having these deferrals. We are going to have to go out for a TRAN in March. I believe it was already taken to board to manage cash flow. Again, it's not a budget issue, it's a cash flow issue that's out of a district's control. So we do have set up, so we will have sufficient funds to make sure that we make all of our obligations timely. But it's good to monitor that so that you can know if you can borrow internally or not. So as we've noted, these are our considerations that are already included in the budget. Was the transfer is postponed into the out years of our RDA money. The warehouse lease is in process. I believe that'll come to the next board agenda meeting. So that will be some new revenue for us. We will be looking at making reductions for the next 2 years out to align and right size our district. Other things that we might consider as a district to make sure that our budgets are still fiscally solvent, we could look at, and again, some of these things are negotiable, but negotiable items would be looking at benefit plans for going to a different kind of cost structure, changing our benefit pools, increasing benefit contribution. With employees currently pay $500 per year. Other things that are not negotiable would be to continue monitoring our staffing, analyzing city developments, and if there's any building programs going to occur, increasing enrollment at the high school, or I think it's the combination one that's with the college, looking at other leasing options and exploring online. And of course, we'll continue to look for other ideas as well. So with that, our staff is recommending that the board approve the first interim and file it as a positive certification. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions from the board?
I just want to thank you for an excellent presentation and making a complicated topic understandable. Appreciate it.
Thank you too. This helps a lot.
Thank you. And I would be remiss too, and I completely forgot to thank the staff for all the preparation in this and the interim CBO. And so I do want to acknowledge them at this time for all the work they did to support and put this into where I could get into the PowerPoint.
This is what we get, but this is what we read.
Yes.
So thank you for this.
Is there a cap on the PERS and STRS contribution, employer contribution?
No, it'll continue to go up by about 1.5% to 2% for the next couple of years, and then it stops. But that limit, that number right there is what the employer contribution is, but it will increase for a couple more years before it tops out.
So do we think that 25.9% and the 18.4 was in the interim, is that the cap, or do we think it'll go higher than that? Off the top of your head, I won't hold you to it.
Yeah,
There's
I have to go back and look what it is. It'll go about 3% higher than what it is.
Okay.
Sometimes the state will pay down what they've done in the past on occasion. If there's surplus revenue, is they will sometimes pay that down and flatten it out where it was.
Yeah.
I
think it was last year, they kept us at the same rate as the year before. But
But I believe it's
25.
expected to go, I think two more steps up at about 1.5% over the next
almost
several
at,
years.
Pushing 30% of
Mm-hmm.
the contributions. That's been a huge hit on our budget. The RDA, use of RDA funds, we don't have to use those this year.
Correct. We do not need to use it this year after all.
Yeah.
And so that frees it up to stay there until we need to use it, if we need to use it another year. The budget for the governor will be released in January, I believe on the 15th. So anything could happen for those out years.
And so what he intends, and then the actual, usually changes, and they pulled the rug out from under us 2 years ago or something like that. I mean, it was a huge decline, but
So we're planning for what we know today, and we'll monitor when we get governor's budget in those out years. But what we know today is what's presented here, and we will have those funds available for the next 2 years.
thank you for a great detailed presentation. That was terrific. Thank you.
Yes, please thank your entire staff and thank you for being here and jumping right in. We
Sure.
Truly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I have a question on
Sure.
the CARES, the learning loss funds that we got from the feds. Were there restrictions placed on those?
Yes, they're, especially as federal money, they're very highly restricted. Off the top of my head, just in summary, it's basically to mitigate the learning loss. So they can be used for equipment, for additional staff that may be needed to provide those learning opportunities. It can be used for the services that go with that. It can be used for supporting mental health. It can be used to support the distribution of food.
Okay.
So basically anything
That's directly related to.
to the
COVID.
impact of COVID, yes.
And we know the feds, the House and the Senate, they're discussing another package. Has anything come down about if there's going to be more money for education? No.
I have not heard about that.
Okay, that was
I mean, what I will share is that there is some talk, if you've heard about windfalls with the state revenue, that it hasn't at least yet hit the revenue is in the state level as much as had been anticipated. The latest I've heard with that is that they're deciding whether to use it to pay down deferrals or to distribute out to districts in a different way.
Right.
So there's no clarity on that, but we are eagerly keeping our fingers crossed that they'll do something wise with it.
Okay.
Can you, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, can you just clarify here, expenditures for 2021, 2022 include reductions of 1.5 million and 2022 and 2023 includes reductions of 750,000. Can you just explain that real again? to me?
Sure. Okay, so what that means is what we're anticipating right now based on our current enrollment.
Okay.
We would possibly be overstaffed if our enrollment is going down, that we would potentially be overstaffed in some areas. There would also be reductions. Obviously, if you have less staff, you may need less supplies. So as our enrollment decreases, we need to right size all of our expenditures, our staffing and expenditures. So we will have to look at that.
Okay, so that's really directly tied to that declining enrollment is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
because again, enrollment drives both our staffing and our facility needs. You know, because whether a child actually comes to school, we anticipate that they come to school.
Right.
So enrollment drives those two things. The ADA drives the actual money we receive. So if enrollment goes down, we need less facilities and less staff.
Okay.
And with that, to someone place your motion.
I would like to move that we accept the recommendation of the first period interim report.
Second.
We have a motion by Scott DeTore and a second by Nathan Sweet. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Yes. Great job.
Moving on to item 30, it is recommended that the board approve the district's 2020-2021 local control funding formula overview for parents as presented and noted on the reference reports. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, thank you. So this report does require board approval, and it provides our projected revenue for this current school year, and it does separately identify the CARES Act funding. And the purpose of this report is really to reflect in our learning continuity plan the amount budgeted for increasing the services of our high need students, which are our unduplicated students, foster youth, low income, and English learners.
We have a motion.
I move to approve the local control funding formula overview for
But-
2021.
We have a motion by Utia Van Dam. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott DeTore. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Okay, moving on to item 31. It is recommended that the board approve the grant awarded by the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District, VCA PCD, to install the electrical infrastructure to support an electric school bus. In July 2020, the district was awarded two grants, $361,087 to purchase the electric bus and two $111,799 to install the electrical infrastructure to support the electric bus. The grant award requires the destruction, scrap of one bus selected by the VCA PCD, bus number 17, 1998 Crown Super Coach, classified as heavy smog polluter. Wow. At this time, the district is now interested in moving forward with the installation of the electrical infrastructure to be funded by the grant award. Any unforeseen construction overages will be funded by the maintenance, operations, transportation, and MOT budget. Annual cost for charging the new bus is anticipated to be $4,956 compared to the yearly fiscal impact of diesel, $8,400, and will be funded by the MOT budget. Dr. Hayes.
Thank you. Yes, we're excited about this. We're the third district in Ventura County to be awarded this grant. And to start, this is a step in the right direction to get an electrical fleet of buses. And it is virtually cost-free for the district for the installation of the electrical infrastructure. And along that will come the bus that we received a grant for. And the annual cost, as reflected here in the agenda item, is almost 50% savings of what we are currently paying for fuel for our diesel. So we recommend approval of this item, and we're excited to start, an electrical bus fleet, one at a time.
We'll have to say goodbye to bus number 17.
Yes, we would.
And if I may add, kudos to whoever it is that was able to keep that bus running for
Right?
30
Well, there's a will, there's a way.
32 years.
I think I
Seriously.
may have been on that bus to school.
Yeah, seriously. That's a stupendous job. Keep that thing running that long.
We could thank our maintenance department. They
Yes.
actually do a
Please thank
phenomenal
them.
job.
Seriously, they deserve it to keep that thing going.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the grant awarded to the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District for the infrastructure to support this electric school bus and install it.
We have a motion by Utia Van Dam. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Second by Amy Adams. Any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 32, it is recommended that the board approve the purchase, wow, we're just buying a lot of stuff today. The purchase of a new bus, student tracking software, and the 48-month contract. The district currently operates 2 separate programs. This new software will allow the district advanced tracking of students and bus routing. First year cost is $36,000, funded by safety credits, and subsequent annual costs of $6,000 that will be funded by maintenance, operation, and our transportation budget. And Dr. Hayes, you're on this one too.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank our Director of Maintenance Office, Operation and Transportation, Denise Barrington, for doing the research and tracking this tracking system and tracking down this tracking system. It's actually, I think, it will be an asset to our district. It will allow our parents of bus drivers to download an app, and they can actually see when their students board the bus, when their students exit the bus. And it also allows us to track our students precisely in case a student, every now and then, we may have a student who gets off at the wrong bus stop, or sometimes our little youngsters might not get on the bus after school and miss the bus. So we're able to track, oh, they're not on the bus, and then we can find them. So this would be a huge asset, and it is considered an enhancement to our safety. So we would qualify to pay for this with using safety credits. And then the $6,000 annual fee is easily, routinely absorbed by the regular general fund MOT budget. So we strongly encourage approval of this item.
What a wonderful thing for parents to kind of keep track of their kids and for safety and for such a small amount. I think it's very smart, and thank our MNO for researching this and bringing it to the board.
Is that a motion?
And I move to approve this.
Well, I'd like to make a comment on this too, because as I was, if that's okay.
Yep.
As I was looking through all the paperwork, one of the things that caught my attention was that it said that it would be provide, Wi-Fi, it would be
Yeah.
Wi-Fi enabled for all the students, which is concerning to me, considering what our students could access on Wi-Fi in a bus and maybe show to other kids. So I checked with David Roberts about that, because I want to make sure that that's filtered with our firewall, and he assured me that that is. So I feel confident in that, knowing that they're not going to be able to, access inappropriate things on that if that's fully filtered by our system.
Is that a second?
So, yes, that's a second. But anyway, that made me feel a little bit better knowing that. Just want to throw that out there.
I think a lot of parents get that.
Yeah.
So we have a first by Uche Van Dam and a second by Amy Adams. Do we have any more discussion?
And just thank you again for, being innovative in ways to not only provide safety, but cost savings to our district. This is $10,000 in savings alone, and upgrading our fleet and increasing our footprint. So thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item, did you make this agenda long because I was really Nathan always has. District policies, so 40. District staff continues to review recommendations from CSBA regarding updates and minor changes to the board policies and administrative regulations. The reference staff report summarizes the proposed changes and updates regarding the 4000 series. It is recommended that the board approve the updates and changes referenced in the attached staff report as they apply to the 4000 series of the district board policies. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, and this continues our ongoing efforts to maintain updated board policies that reflect current state law. It is often changing. And so our staff, my staff, they do an amazing job continuously keeping all of our board policies updated. And that is not the norm necessarily in surrounding districts. So I'm very proud of that fact. So these represent board policies that are updated without any major significant changes. So we recommend approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Nathan Sweet. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott Vittori. Discussion? Anyone?
As always, I thank staff for
Yes.
reviewing these. I've been there. It's,
I remember when we first started this and you said you're gonna be receiving updates and updates and updates, and this is really good because we're, continuing to update. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more after this whole COVID thing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. 41, at the reading, a first reading will be held on the proposed new policy E4119.12, 4219.12, 4319.12. All personnel Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures as referenced in item 41. Following the first reading, it is recommended that the board waive the second reading and adopt the proposed new policy presented. Dr. Hayes.
So this policy, Title IX is really annually updated as well from the state. And this one, because now it includes exhibits, which you can also just think of as the sample documents. We wanted to pull that out separately for the board, but we do recommend waiving the second reading and approving after the first reading, because it's essentially the same policy, it just now comes with samples that we would present to staff if needed.
Do we have a motion?
I have a motion.
Motion by Scott DeTore. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Nathan Sweet. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, do we have any pending agenda items? All right, we're almost there. Date and time of the next regular meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Moore Park Unified School District will be held on Thursday, January 7th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at the district office boardroom here at 5297 Marine Lane, Moore Park, California. Please note that the meeting date and time are subject to the change pending updates of the governor's executive orders and to the Ventura County Public Health Stay-at-Home Order. Dr. Hayes, I think that meeting is going to be on Zoom, right? Or whatever we're using.
That's what we anticipated this time.
Okay. Okay, who wants to do the honors of making a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
We have a first by Ute Van Dam, second.
I'll second it.
Amy will second. And all those in favor? We
Aye.
are adjourning at 7:54. Good night, everyone, and thank you to everyone who joined us on the YouTube. Have a good night.
There's Kelly by new signatures.
You did great.
Ah.